Hello, and welcome back to our Happy Place Home Studio series on basic recording. This is a special part of that series. I'm calling it Part 3A. After I reviewed Part 3, which was recording guitar amps with a microphone, and after getting some feedback, I decided I wanted to add kind of an addendum to Part 3, calling it Part 3A, to walk through a more real-world scenario for recording with multiple microphones against an amplifier. And so what I decided to do was I went back to my favorite site, activemelody.com, where I love to get blues lesson material. And I found one of the blues lessons, a recent lesson, EP 415, which is Stevie Ray Vaughan type licks. And I recorded that. And, you know, the community at activemelody.com is just awesome. And one of the things they love to do is they take the lessons, which Brian brings out weekly, and learn them and then record them, send them in, and you know, they usually record them on YouTube, and they post them on the bulletin boards on the community site at activemelody.com. So I've done that before, enjoy doing it, and decided to do that this time. To walk through the process a little bit more of setting up in a real world scenario a couple of microphones. And as you can see, I had a pretty much very similar setup to what I had for Part 3. I've got my Fender amplifier. I've got two of the microphones. I didn't go three. One is the Shure SM57, which is set up directly in front of the cone, as we did in Part 3. And then the Royer R122 Mark II, which is that ribbon microphone, remember, I've got set off a little bit offset from center, but aligned with the Shure SM57, as you recall, to avoid phase problems. This video will be fairly short, but I'm just going to walk through what I did, show you some of the audio inputs as they came in. Didn't do a whole lot of post-production processing. I used the reverb capability of the amp to add a little bit, but pretty much just trying to get a straight-up recording going and posting that video up on activemelody.com. So let's start with a quick look at the DAW project that I set up to record the lesson. One of the things that Brian does a great job of is he provides a lot of material for you to accompany you with the lesson. So he's not just showing you how to play, you know, the end-to-end riffs and that kind of thing that are in the lesson, but he's also provided backing tracks, multiple backing tracks. By the way, you'll find a review of activemelody.com that explains a lot of this. But just to explain in this context, so I wanted to grab two backing tracks and put it into my DAW for recording purposes. One was the track with no accompanying guitar, and then the other was the track with the guitar so that I could use my DAW to practice it. So I've got those two tracks. And then I've got a track set up for each microphone, as you can see. And so that's the essential setup that I put into the digital audio workstation. Now, the next thing that I did was, of course, set up the microphones. And in setting up the microphones, followed the steps that we laid out in Part 3. The Shure SM57 is a dynamic microphone, does not need phantom power. The Royer is a condenser microphone, and does need phantom power. And because I was recording against an amplifier, I used the -15 decibel switch to help me make sure I didn't blow up that microphone. I'm glad I did that, by the way, because at one point when I was recording, I actually had the amp up too loud and it could have damaged the microphone, but -15 dB helped make sure that that did not happen. Now, continuing on, the next thing that I did was set up my basic audio levels using my Motu 1248's interface, not only to turn on the phantom power, but to set the audio levels where I wanted them to be. And I, of course, used my DAW and listened to some practice tracks to figure out where I wanted that to be, and actually recorded a session and made adjustments from that. I ended up with the Royer a little bit too low, but that's okay. I was able to make it up. That's probably the only adjustment I did make in post-production, was just increase the volume of that channel. So we want to make sure, of course, as we laid out, to leave a little headroom. I wasn't planning on doing anything post, but I still want to leave that headroom, not try to be too close to 0 dB in the recording process, get more, closer to -6 to -10 dB, and then do what I need to do in post-production. So I was able to accomplish that. So let's listen to the track I created, at least a little bit of it. Overall, I was pretty happy with the results as far as the microphones against the amplifier went. Of course, could I have had better amplifier settings? Sure. But I was very happy with the faithful reproduction of what I was playing through the amplifier by the two microphones. And I also really like the combination of the two microphones in the final track as far as the tone coverage and the two microphones working together in that complementary fashion to give me a good result. As promised, a short addendum to part 3, a real-life example of recording with multiple microphones on your amplifier. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out part 4 of our basic recording series on Happy Place Home Studio.